The neon sign outside the rusty anchor flickered erratically, casting sickly green and red hues over the rain-slicked pavement. Inside, the air pulsed with smoke, sweat, and the low hum of anticipation. It was a Friday night in October 1983, and for the band Silver Shade, this was supposed to be just another small-town gig. One more step toward the spotlight. But something about the night felt off. Mark Bennett, the band's lead guitarist, wiped his hands on his worn denim jacket as he peered through the grimy window. The usual crowd had gathered, but the energy was restless, tense even. Their amps hummed quietly, plugged into a battered extension cord that stretched across the stage like a lifeline. The van was parked just outside, its engine ticking as it cooled after the long drive. The set had gone smoothly. Mark's fingers still tingled from the last riff. Yet, as they packed away their gear, the air seemed heavier, thicker, like an unseen presence lurking just out of sight. "Did you see that guy near the back?" whispered Lisa, the lead singer, her voice barely audible over the chatter. Mark glanced toward the bar's shadowed corner, but saw only the usual mix of locals nursing beers and casting glances at the stage. "Probably just some drunk," he replied, but the knot in his stomach tightened. The van's sliding door slammed shut with a hollow echo. Their roadie, Joe, was double-checking the amps when he froze, eyes wide. "Guys, look at this." Mark and Lisa hurried over. The van's battery light flickered on the dashboard despite the engine being off. Frowning, Mark stepped closer and noticed the faint scent of something burnt lingering in the air. "Maybe a short circuit?" Lisa suggested, but Joe shook his head. "Doesn't feel right." The night wore on, and the band decided to call it early. The drive back to their shared apartment on the edge of town wasn't far, but as they loaded up, an uneasy silence settled between them. Outside, rain began to fall in steady sheets, making the narrow dirt road slippery. Mark took the wheel, the van's engine coughing, but eventually roaring to life. The other three piled in, guitars and amps secured in the back. They didn't see the headlights trailing them from a distance, the sleek black car driven by a man with a cold smile, eyes fixed on their every move. The van's engine faltered suddenly near the edge of the road, sputtering like it was gasping for breath. Mark hit the gas pedal, but the vehicle stalled completely, rolling to a stop near a gate leading into an endless cornfield. "Great," Mark muttered, pounding the steering wheel. "Not now." Lisa shivered despite the warmth inside. "Do you think someone's messing with us?" Joe nodded, pulling out his phone, but no signal. They were stranded. Suddenly, the black car pulled up behind them, its engine idling menacingly. The driver's door opened, and a tall man in a sharp leather jacket stepped out. "Looks like you boys could use some help," he said smoothly, voice dripping with false concern. Mark's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" The man smiled thinly. "Name's Carter, manager for a band you've probably never heard of. Crimson Fade. They're a big deal, and you lot, well, you're in the way." Lisa's heart pounded. "What do you want?" Carter's gaze hardened. "Just making sure the music scene stays competitive. You wouldn't want any accidents, would you?" The van's battery died completely, plunging the interior into darkness. The rain hammered against the windows like an ominous drumbeat. "We should get back inside," Joe said urgently, but Carter was already circling the vehicle, eyes gleaming. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed. The van jolted as if struck. Mark grabbed the wheel, trying to restart the engine, but it was useless. Carter leaned in through the window, voice low and dangerous. "Remember this night. It's the last you'll ever play." With that, the black car sped off into the storm, leaving the band stranded in the empty cornfield, the rain swallowing their screams. That night, Silvershade vanished without a trace. 41 years later, the morning sun beat down on a sprawling cornfield on the outskirts of Millersville, where farmer Tom Reynolds steered his rusty tractor through rows of green stalks. His plow dug deep into the earth, turning over rich soil for the coming season. Suddenly, his blade struck something hard beneath the dirt. Curious, Tom parked and climbed down, brushing away clumps of earth. The outline of a rusted van emerged, its faded logo barely visible through decades of grime. Heart pounding, Tom reached inside. The gear was still plugged in. The amps hummed faintly from a corroded battery, lifeless but eerie in the still morning air. Nearby, tire ruts led back to a weathered gate, marked with a faded sign, the property of a man named Carter. The same Carter who had mysteriously inherited Silver Shade's record contract 6 months after their disappearance. Tom's mind raced. What had happened here all those years ago? And why was the van buried in his field? The mystery was about to unravel. Tom Reynolds wiped sweat from his brow as he stepped back from the half-buried van. The morning sun glared down, casting long shadows over the cornfield, but all Tom could see was the rusted vehicle before him, a ghost from a past no one talked about anymore. His mind drifted back to the stories his grandfather used to tell, tales of the band that disappeared one stormy night, swallowed by the fields in silence. Most dismissed them as small-town legend, but now, standing here with the heavy metal beast unearthed, Tom wasn't so sure. He pulled out his phone and snapped several pictures of the van, its peeling paint, the faded Silver Shade logo still barely visible on the side. The back doors hung open, revealing tangled cables, shattered guitar cases, and amps frozen in time. "How the hell did this stay hidden all these years?" Tom muttered. His tractor's engine growled behind him, a sharp reminder that he couldn't stay here all day. But before he could start clearing the area, his phone buzzed. A text message from his daughter, Emily. "Dad, don't forget I have a doctor's appointment today. Call me later." Tom smiled, pocketing the phone. Life went on, even with the past creeping up. Later that afternoon, Tom drove into Millersville to talk to the town historian, Margaret Ellis. A sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, Margaret was known for her encyclopedic knowledge of local legends and dusty archives. "Margaret," Tom began as he entered the cluttered office, "you remember the band Silver Shade, right? The ones who vanished back in '83? Margaret's eyes lit up. "How could I forget? It's the one mystery I can never quite solve. That whole disappearance shook this town." Tom laid his phone on her desk, showing the pictures of the van. "Look what I found buried out in my cornfield this morning." Margaret leaned forward, her fingers trembling slightly as she traced the images. This is incredible. No one's seen that van in decades." She pulled out a leather-bound journal and flipped through pages marked with yellowed newspaper clippings. "Here's what I know. Silver Shade was a 4-piece band. Lisa, the charismatic lead singer, Mark, the guitar prodigy, Joe, the quiet roadie, and Tom, the drummer. They played every bar between here and Chicago, hoping to get noticed." Tom frowned. "What happened the night they disappeared?" Margaret sighed. "Officially, no one knows. They left the Rusty Anchor after their last gig and were never seen again. The police found nothing, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Just silence. But their record contract went to a rival band's manager, Carter," Tom added. "The same name on the gate next to my field." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "That's suspicious. Carter was known for ruthless tactics in the music business. If anyone wanted to push Silver Shade out, it was him." Suddenly the office phone rang, slicing through the quiet. Margaret answered. Her face went pale as she listened. "Tom, you might want to hear this. There's been a break-in at the old band rehearsal studio downtown. Equipment is missing, and there's a strange message scrawled on the wall." Tom grabbed the phone. "What kind of message?" Margaret hesitated. "It just says, 'The truth won't stay buried.'" Tom's heart skipped. "I'm coming over." At the abandoned studio, the scene was eerie. Broken locks, smashed windows, and scattered gear told a story of desperation. Mark Bennett's old guitar case was open, empty. The amps, once the heart of Silver Shade's sound, were gone. But etched into the dusty wall was the chilling message Margaret had mentioned. Tom ran his hand over the words, the faded paint crumbling beneath his fingers. "The truth won't stay buried." Suddenly footsteps echoed behind him. "Looking for answers too?" a voice asked. Tom spun around to see a tall figure step out of the shadows, a man in his early 40s wearing a leather jacket with a silver chain dangling from his belt. "I'm Alex Harper," the man said, voice low. "I was a fan of Silver Shade, and I think I know what happened to them." Tom's eyes narrowed. "Then start talking." Alex led Tom to a nearby diner where the late afternoon sun painted the windows orange. Over coffee, Alex unfolded a story that shook Tom to his core. Carter wasn't just any manager, Alex began. He was a businessman with ties to some very dangerous people. When Silvershade started getting popular, Carter saw them as a threat to his own band, Crimson Fade. Go on, Tom urged. Carter orchestrated their disappearance, Alex whispered. A cover-up so complete, the town forgot they ever existed. The van in your field, it was hidden to erase any trace. Tom clenched his fists. Why now? Why surface after 41 years? Alex looked away. Because someone's been digging too deep. The past doesn't like to stay buried, and neither do secrets. Outside, the cornfield rustled as a cold wind swept through the stalks. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. The mystery of Silvershade was far from over. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly as Tom sat across from Alex Harper, digesting the weight of his revelation. Outside, the world went on, oblivious to the decades-old secrets they were about to unravel. Who else knows about this? Tom asked quietly. Alex shook his head. Very few. Carter made sure anyone who asked questions either disappeared or went silent. I lost friends over this, people who believed Silvershade deserved justice. Tom felt a knot tighten in his chest. So, what's your plan? Alex pulled a folded photograph from his jacket pocket. It was grainy, but unmistakable. The 4 members of Silvershade standing proudly beside their van. Smiles frozen in time. Behind them, barely visible, was a shadowy figure, a man whose face was half hidden by a cap. That's Carter, Alex said. He was there that night, watching. Someone needs to dig into his past. Tom frowned. He's long gone from Millersville, though. Moved to the city years ago. Alex's eyes darkened. Maybe, but his family still owns that gate by your cornfield, right? Tom nodded slowly. Then there's hope. If we can find Carter or someone close to him, maybe we can crack this open. Back at the farm, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The cornfield looked peaceful under the afternoon sun, but shadows danced just beyond the rows, shifting with the wind. That night, as the farmhouse settled into silence, Tom's phone buzzed. A text message flashed. Stop digging or lose everything. No number, no signature. Tom stared at the screen, heart pounding. He knew this was bigger than just an old van or a forgotten band. The next day, Tom met with Margaret again. Together, they visited the county archives, hoping to unearth anything on Carter's dealings and the sudden transfer of Silvershade's record contract. Hours passed amid yellowed newspapers and brittle documents. Margaret pulled out a file marked Carter Enterprises, 1983. Inside were suspicious contracts, forged signatures, and a trail of financial transfers that didn't add up. What kind of man uses legal tricks to steal a band's future? Margaret murmured. Tom nodded grimly. A man who wanted to erase them. Meanwhile, Alex tracked down former members of Crimson Fade in the city. Most were tight-lipped, but one woman, Jenna, agreed to meet. In a dimly lit cafe, Jenna's eyes flickered with fear and guilt. I wasn't part of Carter's plan, she whispered, but I saw things no one should have. Silvershade didn't just vanish, they were silenced. Tom listened closely as Jenna described a night of betrayal, threats, and a deal gone horribly wrong. The van wasn't just hidden, it was a tomb. Back on the farm, Tom lay awake, haunted by the message on his phone. The past was alive, and it was fighting back. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of whispered phone calls, dusty files, and uneasy glances. Tom's discovery had stirred more than just dust. It had unsettled the fragile peace that Millersville had clung to for decades. Margaret's office was stacked high with documents as they pieced together the twisted web Carter had woven. Look at this, Margaret said, sliding a set of old legal papers across the table. Carter's family controlled multiple businesses, but this one, the record label, it was his crown jewel. Acquiring Silvershade's contract gave him a monopoly over the local scene. Tom's jaw clenched. So he crushed the competition by any means necessary. Exactly. Margaret tapped a yellowed newspaper clipping. "Here. It says Silver Shade was on the cusp of signing a major deal with a national label, until Carter stepped in and brokered a deal with the local one. Then, poof, they disappeared." Tom stared at the clipping. The words "mysterious disappearance" and "vanishing band sparks rumors" haunted the page. That evening, Tom returned to his farm, the van in the field looming like a silent sentinel. As twilight fell, he noticed fresh tire tracks nearby, newer than any from decades ago. His pulse quickened. Someone had been here recently. Suddenly, footsteps crunched behind him. "Relax," a voice said. Tom spun to see Alex Harper emerge from the corn, his face grim. "I checked your place while you were gone," Alex said. "You're not alone in wanting answers." Tom nodded. "I got a warning text last night. Someone wants me to back off." Alex's eyes hardened. "Then we better be ready. Carter's reach is long, and the people working for him don't hesitate to threaten." Together they drove into town, planning their next move, track down anyone still tied to Carter's circle. At a seedy bar on the edge of Millersville, they met a man named Ronnie, a former roadie who worked for Crimson Fade in the 80s. Ronnie was a grizzled figure, his face etched with regret. "They told me to keep quiet," he slurred, "but I saw what happened that night. The van, it wasn't just abandoned, it was meant to disappear." "What do you mean?" Tom asked. Ronnie's eyes darted nervously. "Carter's men rigged it. There was more than just rust and rain waiting for Silvershade, something else buried with them." Tom's stomach tightened. "What else?" Alex pressed. Ronnie shook his head, mumbling about threats and silence, before stumbling out into the night. Back at the farm, Tom and Alex stood by the van, now fully exposed under the moonlight. "Whatever Carter did, it wasn't just business," Tom whispered. "It was something darker." Alex nodded. "And if Ronnie's right, we're only scratching the surface." The cornfield rustled eerily as the wind picked up. From the shadows, a figure watched silently, waiting. The hunt for the truth was turning deadly. The following morning, a sense of urgency hung over Millersville, like the heavy fog rolling in from the river. Tom and Alex knew the stakes were higher than ever. Someone had made it clear they were meddling in affairs best left alone. Determined to dig deeper, they decided to investigate the van itself, the centerpiece of the decades-old mystery. Despite years buried under soil, the interior still held traces of the past: frayed cables, broken guitar strings, and a weathered notebook tucked beneath the driver's seat. Alex carefully pulled out the notebook. Its cover was cracked and stained, but the pages inside were surprisingly intact. The handwriting was jagged, yet unmistakably Lisa's, the band's lead singer. Tom read aloud a passage. "October 14th, 1983. Something doesn't feel right. Carter's shadow looms over us. Tonight's gig was strange. Felt eyes on us the entire time. Joe says he's worried. We should have never signed with that label." The words sent a chill through the room. "We're holding a piece of their story," Tom said quietly. Meanwhile, Margaret was digging through the archives when she uncovered a shocking revelation: a series of phone calls between Carter and a local politician just days before Silvershade's disappearance. The calls hinted at a deal involving land rights, including Tom's farm. "Carter wasn't just after the band," Margaret said over the phone. "He wanted control of the property for something else." Tom's mind reeled. Why would Carter care about farmland? As night fell, Tom and Alex returned to the van, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. They decided to look beneath the floorboards inside the van. With a crowbar, they pried up a loose panel, revealing a small compartment. Inside was a cassette tape labeled "Confession." Alex's hands trembled as he loaded the tape into a portable player. The crackling voice of Joe, the roadie, filled the air. "If anyone finds this, know that Carter did this to us. We were silenced because we wouldn't give up the land. The contract was a cover. They wanted the farm for something buried beneath the fields. I'm sorry we never made it out." Tom's heart pounded. The pieces were coming together. The land, the band, the betrayal. Suddenly, headlights flooded the cornfield. A black SUV screeched to a halt near the van. Masked figures jumped out, weapons drawn. "Get down!" Alex shouted. Tom dove behind the van as bullets tore through the night. The ambush was clear. Someone wanted to bury the truth. Permanently. After the attackers fled, Tom and Alex counted themselves lucky. "We're in deeper than we thought," Tom said, blood trickling down his arm. Alex nodded grimly, "But now we know what Carter was really after." The farm was hiding a secret, one powerful enough to kill for. The final chapter was fast approaching. Dawn broke over Millersville, casting pale light across the battered cornfield and the rusted van that had become the epicenter of a decades-old mystery. Tom sat on the porch of his farmhouse, nursing a bruised arm, but burning with determination. Alex was already on the phone with the sheriff, urging immediate investigation into Carter's family and the recent attacks. The stakes had never been higher. Inside the van, Tom and Alex had uncovered more than just old gear and faded memories. They found a map, drawn hastily on a torn piece of cardboard. It marked a spot deep within the cornfield, not far from where the van was found. "Looks like we're going treasure hunting," Tom joked grimly. But this was no treasure. It was a grave. Guided by the map, they trudged through the rustling stalks, the weight of history pressing down on them. After digging for hours, their shovels struck something solid, a wooden crate, weathered but intact. With great effort, they pried it open. Inside lay remnants of equipment, microphones, cables, and something far more chilling, personal items belonging to the band members, including a leather-bound journal and, shockingly, human remains. Tom swallowed hard. The worst was confirmed. The sheriff's arrival marked the beginning of a full-scale investigation. DNA tests would later confirm the remains belonged to the missing band members. Carter's dark legacy came to light, a calculated plan to eliminate competition and claim the land that concealed a buried secret related to an old, abandoned radio tower once used for clandestine broadcasts. The tower had been rumored to carry coded messages, information that Carter wanted to control, using his bands as pawns in a larger game involving corrupt officials and illegal dealings. In the weeks that followed, Carter's associates were arrested, the record label dissolved, and the farm's ownership returned to Tom's family free of any claims. Though justice was served, the scars remained. Tom stood in the empty cornfield one last time, the morning breeze carrying echoes of forgotten songs. Silver Shade was gone, but their story and the truth would never be buried again.